Hello to the GCN community, my name is Mitch Gardner and this video is the second episode of the GCN A-Z. So, as we're on the second letter of the alphabet, we're going to look at the letter B. For this, we're looking at buses. No, not these ones, or even these, but let's think about it. How cool would it be to own one of these? We're going to be looking at buses for mixing elements. So, you're probably thinking, what is bus mixing? You're basically routing multiple channels to a single channel. This way it can speed up the mixing process for individual sections. If you've recorded 10 versions of a guitar, for example, and you want to turn down the guitar a little in your mix, it would mean you have to turn down all 10 separate channels individually, giving you less time doing what you need to be doing. The same applies for orchestras and reverb, but I will be showing you that later. Bus mixing makes it so once you have routed the channels to the bus, you only have to move one fader to alter it. So in this video, I'll be showing you in Logic the benefits of bus mixing. So I've got a project up in Logic here. It's an old mock-up I attempted of Rise of the Guardians by Alexandre Desplat. I've not really mixed it or touched it for quite a while, so but I noticed that I didn't use any bus mixing in this or any reverb buses on it, so I thought this would be a good project to show you a good way of using it in this instance. So yeah, let's go ahead and just listen to it without anything on it so far. Okay, there we go. Still a bit dry. I'm only using the reverb in the instrument libraries. I've not used any external reverb or anything here. So, when it comes to buses, so we've got the mixer up here. You can see I associate different instrument families with colour coordination. So we've got blue for woodwind, yellow for brass, red for percussion, and brown for strings. So if I wanted to group these together, which I will do just now, this will help me mix them in the future as an instrument family rather than individual instruments. So if I create 4 auxiliary channel strips, one for each instrument, starting with bus 1 as an input. Here we go, so we've got 4 buses here. So let's just name them. So we've got winds, we've got brass, we've got percussion and strings, and if I just color coordinate them to go with the colors of the families, there we are. Okay, so we've got those, and now we've not associated any with them yet, so they're just standalone buses at the moment. To associate them with the buses, we have to choose the output to route through the bus. So because the bus is going through the stereo out, we can associate these to go through the bus that then goes to the stereo out. So if we change that to bus 1, we can see it says winds, so these will now go through to the winds bus. So if I solo this, we can hear it coming through there rather than through the instrument, so you can see that it comes through, but this one's soloed, so the rest of them come through. I'm just going to do that for the rest of the families, so you can just see how it works. So we've got bus 2 for brass, bus 3 for percussion. Just get these on. Yeah, okay, and then bus 4 for strings. Okay, there we go. So that's each individual family. So if I just soloed all 4 of these, it would play as we heard it at the start. There we go. Okay, so that's for that. So if we found that the woodwind's too loud, and doing that doesn't affect the mixing over here. So if we had this at 1.5 before we moved it, it was going to be the same anyway. So if we put it back to 0, we see that it's still at 1.5, so it moves the faders down as a group rather than individually. So when it comes to reverb bussing now, I'll just talk about that. So a benefit of this is instead of having one reverb for everything, you can have individual ones that will give you more control over your reverb. So what I normally do is a small and a large reverb for each family. A small one would consist of about 2 seconds, I'd say, as a scoring stage, and then maybe 4 or 5 quite low down in the mix, just to give it that that tail of a reverb. So to use this from a bus perspective, it gives you more control over the reverb. So if you think about it from a listening perspective, if you were at the Royal Albert Hall or any or Royal Festival Hall or anything like that, any concert hall you can think of, if you were to have the percussion at the back, for example, which would be a normal orchestral setting, they would require more reverb because the sound's got further to travel, versus the strings, for example, that will be closest towards you, so you don't really have to have as much in terms of reverb. But I'll go through that now and then show you a bit of an idea. But all I'm going to do for this one is use one setting for each instead, just to save a bit of time. Okay, also not bus 4 and bus 5. So we're starting ascending. So bus 1 to bus 4 is the instrument families. Bus 5 to bus 8 is the reverb for each family. So we'll have winds, verb. I'll just call put winds R for reverb, brass R, perk R, and then strings R. Okay. Once again, color coordination, because then we can see it from afar which one it's associated with. Oh, wrong color. Okay, so associating a reverb to a channel is a little different than changing the output. So we change it from a send. So because we're sending a signal to it, we're sending this signal to that bus. So if we got if we got this these woodwinds over here, not to forget these that are over here for some reason, if we sent those to bus 5, which is winds reverb, that will send the signal that each of these is sending to that bus, which will then apply reverb to it. And then this is a standalone reverb channel. So if we soloed it, we would only hear reverb. Now, to get them to hear the sound, we see that they've got little knobs on here that we can change the decibels of. In Logic, there is a little shortcut to get them all to 0 like that, which is just highlighting them and then pressing Option and then clicking the fader, and that will assign them all to 0 decibels. I normally keep it at this so I don't mess around with it, and I mess around with it in the actual bus itself. But everyone obviously can do it their own unique way, whichever you find better to do. So now if we get reverb on each one, what I do as well is get an equalizer on each one, whether that be the one that you've got, you know, a waves one or fab filter or just a general EQ, and then you can take off a bit of the high frequencies depending on what part it is, but I'll go through that in a second. So if I just get a medium reverb sort of in the middle, like 3 seconds or something, maybe 2.9, big concert hall, there's an example. Okay, so I'm not going to touch that, I'm just going to leave it as it is, and then I'm going to apply that to all 4 of these. That'll just be a second. So what I'm doing here is just pretending that every single individual part is playing under the same roof, basically. But there's no saying that you don't have to use a different reverb for each instrument family, because as I mentioned, some have got further to travel, so you might want a longer tail on some and some with a shorter tail, but that's entirely up to you. So we've got reverb on all those. I've not touched anything of those. All I need to do now is just get the sends on each one now. So the brass go to bus 6. We've got percussion going to bus 7, and then we've got this one to bus 8. Oops. Okay, so we've got all those, and then we'll just wipe those through, and then we've got Option, click, and then they will go to 0 decibels. Oh, I forgot to. Oops. So there's percussion. Oh, sorry. Percussion, and then Option, click. There we go. So that's all that's done, and now I'm just going to play it. So you can see a bit of reverb there, bit too loud, but like I say, I've not touched it. You can see them all at 0 decibels anyway. So this is the part where we can just touch them down and then listen to them individually. So if we soloed the Winds reverb and played it back, this is just the reverb. So that's what it sounds like on its own as the reverb. So you can get an idea of what would be the best way to say this. It gives you an idea of what it would sound like to be the most natural. So if we got a reverb up here, played that again, and then took the high frequencies out, put it with the high. That's not too bad. See, you've cut the high frequencies out here, and then you can just bump it up a bit more, so it fills more of a gap. And then the same goes for the brass. So we'll just listen to that. I can skip a few bars here. That's just the reverb and having it with the instrument. See, it's just filling that gap. See, with percussion as well, it'll be a little different. Oh, sorry, let me do that. Because this one is so far away, you might want to cut more of it off or have it as a longer tail, as I've mentioned, but we'll just leave it as it is at the moment. Okay, and then strings, because they're a bit closer, generally they don't have as much EQ taken off as others, but you can still have a good amount of reverb on them as well. Oops. Oh, I've gotten rid of the mixer, sorry. So we've heard that sounds alright, let's just put it with the actual strings. See, and it tails off nice enough so it doesn't get in the way, but it also leaves its mark as well. So if we just listen to that now as it is with the reverb. Yeah, that's not too bad. Not too bad for 10 minutes of work. Obviously, I'd now fix this in the mixing side on the automation and stuff. So if we go to here, oh no, sorry. What I need to do, what to show you now is to, if I assign all these a track, if I go into Logic and do Control T, that would give them a track in the arranging window. So what I could do for this, if I wanted more reverb on the brass at the end section, so I think it's this bit. So up to bar 10, if I wanted that to go up. So going back to the automation video, so I just up that node there, so that will bring more reverb up to that last bar. Maybe a bit further like that, that'll be quite good. So now if I just listen to the brass, you can hear that reverb just get a little louder at the end, just to fill that bit more and add a bit more tension to the end of the cue. But yeah, there we go. So that's just a couple of ideas that you can get to use mixing. So mixing buses for instrument families and mixing buses for reverb. As I said, I use two mixing buses for reverb, so one small and one long. These are both individual, and I do it in the same way with the EQ first with the reverb underneath, so it EQs that reverb. I think I'll wrap it up there then. I've gone through quite a bit there for mixing side and going on from the mixing with reverbs on the buses as well. I hope you found this video useful. I would love to hear your thoughts, so please do leave a comment below on this new series as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.